hair is too dull for me. We were dancing some seconds ago. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction. Just like she said, my name is Ada Nduka Oyum, and I'm the founder and executive director of this amazing community. I'm so honored and privileged to be standing in front of you. Thank you so much for taking out your time to have this conversation with us today. Thank you for spending your Saturday with us. Are you guys having an amazing time? Yes. Are you having an amazing time? Yes. Awesome. So today, we are going to be having a very important conversation, one that needs to be had. How many of us have attended SEA Summit 2022 or 2023? If it's your first time at SEA Summit, okay, so those of us who've attended previous summits, did you notice anything different in this year's summit in terms of the theme, the corporates, dressing, etc.? Awesome. So this year, we decided to make sure that we're pulling up our big girl panties and discussing on very important conversations beyond just how to grow a career in tech, how to move from mid-level to senior, but very important conversations that would help us contribute as women to the growth of not just Nigeria's economy, but Africa's economy through innovation. So we're excited about this conversation. It's going to be a panel session, and I'm going to be having very important guests that I am even looking forward to speaking to them. So I'm going to be starting with the first introduction. And when I introduce each person, please do me a favor and give them a really outstanding round of applause. Promise me you do that? Okay. So my first speaker that I'm going to be introducing is Clara Ezudo. She is the head, thank you so much. She is the head of operations at One Health. Clara is a licensed pharmacist, and she's currently head of operations in One Health, a fast-growing online pharmacy and healthcare platform where she drives growth and innovation. Please, a round of applause for Clara. Thank you so much. Welcome, Clara. Our next speaker is a woman that I've had the opportunity to interact with virtually for a few months, and I can tell you she's an amazing personality. Some of you might already know her. DJ, music, thank you. Some of you might already know her, but for those of you who don't know her, it's a privilege for me to introduce her. So please give a really huge round of applause for Dr. Jumoke Aleoke Malaki, who is the founder of Workplace with Welcome, Jumoke. And my last speaker is the Strategic Partner Development Manager at Google Search. Please give it up for Ugochi Agore. Ugochi is a strategy development expert. DJ. Ugochi is a strategy development expert and a management executive with 2 decades, that's 20 years. 2 decades of professional experience in technology partnerships and channel strategy. Hi, Ugochi. So good to see you again. Okay, so we will start with introductions. I'll just let you introduce yourself very briefly because we're running with time. And we'll start with Clara.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, my name is Clara Zudo. I'm a licensed pharmacist. I think I've worked in a couple of pharmacy retail chains, and after my last work at MedCourt Support Services, I decided to branch into health tech, and that's One Health. And in One Health, I'm serving as the head of operations, and we've been able to, use a lot of tech innovations, and as solutions for, to cater for health needs to cater for the health needs of the people. It's been a journey, and I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. Okay, so over to you, Jumoke.
Okay, my name is Jumoke Aluki Malakai, a human resources practitioner. This is my 15th year practicing human resources. And I've worked across sectors. I'm happy to be here. For me, it's a real honor to be here. This for me just further confirms why, as women, we need to be on top. The keynote speaker said a lot of things that resonated with me to say we are too important to be ignored. So the opportunity to be here in this room with amazing women, truly, truly honored.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. Okay, so Gochi.
Hi, everyone. Honored to be here. My name is Ugochi Agorio. Brief introduction. I've done many things over the last 20 years, but I will stick with technology. So I've worked in channel and distribution over the last probably 13 years at Microsoft, SAP, and now Google, where I lead partnerships, search partnerships for sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you so much, Gochi. So I'll jump right into the questions, and I would like one thing from us, the audience. Decorum, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'll start with you, Jumoke. You mentioned that you've been in the HR space for about 15 years, right? One thing about us at Chicot Africa is that we're very keen on diversity and inclusion, and we're trying to drive gender inclusion within the tech industry as well. For us as women to be able to make change, to drive the innovation that we're trying to do, we need to also be able to create these inclusive environments. Now, in the workplace, what do you think are some of the top cultural barriers that prevent women from advancing in their tech roles? And our audience here comprises of women who are both from student to expert level. So at different stages in their careers, they have definitely experienced some of these barriers. From your HR perspective, what are those barriers, cultural barriers that prevent these women, and how can we improve on them?
Okay, I think the very first thing I'll mention really is our mindset. For many of us, we just have those limiting beliefs. Growing up, when the keynote speaker was talking, she was talking about there is some profession that you couldn't just say you wanted to go into as a woman or as a girl. So increasingly, we grew up limited. You just felt, can I really become an engineer? Can I really do this? So that for me is the very first thing. And so if we can overcome those limiting beliefs, if we can see ourselves beyond the limits people put around us, then we're going towards something. And then, of course, the biases are there. We're the same people who need to go off at some point in our careers to have babies. Because if we don't have babies, we'll be in this room, if you get what I mean. That's service to humanity. So we need to do that. But because you need to go off on maternity leave, there are some opportunities you'll likely miss. There are some ways people will look down on you to say, can a woman do that? So those biases are there, they're real. But I think increasingly for me, I always say that as women, I should not be given an opportunity just because I'm a woman. I should be given the opportunity because I'm deserving. So increasingly as women, we also need to challenge ourselves to say, don't pity me to give me the opportunity. Pity me because I deserve it. Hire me or consider me for the role because I deserve it, because I've earned it. So those are some of the things I've noticed. It's also important to emphasize how we show up. Because as women, at times we show up as even undeserving. You'll be surprised. You go for an interview and you're sitting at the reception and you see 5 other guys, and you're already feeling like there's no way I will get this job. Why don't you? I don't follow. And I cannot relate. I remember speaking at 9 to 5 Chick webinar sometime last year. And they were asking me that, how did I find my voice? And I must say that, for me, it was right from growing up. Now, not everybody has that opportunity, but I would say, even if it's not there, if it's not in it, please, groom it. You owe it to yourself. Never come to the table feeling undeserving. You deserve everything. But it will also come to you on a platter of gold. You need to earn it. I hope that answers.
Yes, it does. Please, a round of applause for her. So my next question is to you, Gochi. And from a policy standpoint, again, our goal from these summits is to provide a platform where we have these conversations that will drive change in the future. Now, from a policy standpoint and your experience in managing, high-level partnerships and working with like diverse stakeholders across Africa, what do you see as some of the significant barriers in terms of policies that are preventing more women, especially African women, from breaking into the industry? And, how can we address these challenges?
So I think if we look at policy imperatives, and we think about how the government, is promoting gender equality in the workplace, there's certain things that are missing. I think we have to be able to push for policies that encourage companies to hire more women, make sure that those women are paid the right salaries.
Yeah.
Because studies show that men get paid a lot higher than women, even for the same roles in tech. So we have to be pushing for those policies to happen. We have to also push, aside from policy, we have to push for legislation, right? So if there's an inequality in the system, how do you correct it from a legislative point of view? If we think about what is happening in South Africa, where you have the Black Economic Empowerment Act, the BEE ensures that, because there was an inequality, when apartheid ended, there was an inequality in the workplace. Black people did not have the same opportunities. So how do you level the playing field, right? You have to create legislation that ensures that those black people get hired. So what is happening with the BEE is basically that there is a quota that must come to black people. It's the same inequality you have with women in the workplace. So other governments need to start thinking about how to level that playing field, because women are not on the same level with men. So how do you level that playing field? You have to now enact legislation that ensures that women continue to get hired, right? You have to put policies in place that ensure that even if, and I hear you, Jumoke, just talking about, the experience where you're saying that you want the women to be as competent as the men. I agree with that, but the government, ourselves, and the organizations need to understand that women are coming from way back, right? Women are not on the same level. So if today a woman came into an interview with a man, right, and this woman has always been the outlier in that situation. In her class, she was the only one in the engineering class. When she gets into the office, she's one out of 20 engineers. She will obviously not be as confident as the man, so she might not show up as competent, right? But then someone has to stand there. That's why we talk about allyship in the workplace. That's why we're asking for policies and legislation. So someone has to stand there and say, we're going to put something in the sand here, right? That enables that ensures that that woman is given the opportunity, even if she's not showing up at the same level today, because there are reasons she's not showing up at that level, right? So you need to be ensuring that there are policies that are making sure companies continue to hire these women, continue to promote them, continue to pay them the right. And the way that you can do this is enact policies that give benefits to organizations to do this. Give some tax credits, right, for organizations that continue to empower women. Make sure that when you are entering private-public partnerships with any of these organizations, part of that agreement is that you will empower women, you will grow women, you will train them, and you will make sure that they get the mentorship that they require in the organization to grow.
Okay. All right, thank you. Please, a round of applause for voting. So my next question is to Clara, and it's focused on startups, right? So you're coming from the startup point of view. And we know how there's a very visible disparity when it comes to funding. We have founders. Are there founders in the room? Are you shy? But we have founders in the room, and we also have senior executives who at some point, at different points in their careers, might decide to go ahead in building their own startups. Right? How does the funding gap that we currently experience in the ecosystem affect the future of the innovation that we're trying to create, and economic development?
Okay, so the truth is that women bring a very unique perspective to a lot of things, especially in the tech space. So if we don't fund women, it's going to affect the entire innovation ecosystem. I mean, I think one of the speakers mentioned that when there are some issues. I think, yeah, one of the keynote speakers mentioned that there are some issues that women relate to, like maternity. You understand? And someone taking up upon themselves to start finding solution to inequalities. So it's only women that can do those kind of things. So when they are not well funded, there is a very huge gap, right? But in order to surmount these problems, we need to start looking at collaborations. We need a lot of collaborations. We need a lot of mentorship. We need a lot of. We also need to have allies with men, right, in the leadership to be able to do this. Because the truth is, we cannot be our own allies. We need men to buy into what we are selling. So it's very important that as a startup person, that you're able to project the impact that your business is going to bring, especially when you're talking with investors and all of that. You need to be able to project your business very well. You need to be able to, seek seek collaboration with these investors, especially the ones that believe in you, because a word from them can make a lot of difference.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for Clara. So the next question I'm going to ask is going to be directed at Jumoke, and it's going to center around the future of work, right? The way that we work is constantly evolving. Things are changing. Now we are in the digital era, and also in the remote era as well. And when you're speaking about the remote era, there was a study I read last year as to how women are the most affected, from remote work, especially women who are moms. Right. Now, what pivotal role, seeing everything that's changing in terms of work, what pivotal role should we as women seek to play, in shaping the workplace in the future?
Wow. I think my very first response to that will be building up or ramping up on our leadership skills. So that we as women, we show the world what it means to be exceptional leaders. I've heard a lot of stories, and I've also experienced bad bosses. And in most cases, they are women. Sadly so. No, don't say always. don't say always. So it's important that we have that maternal orientation. It's default to us to nurture, to care for. And that needs to show even in our leadership skills. So I'm challenging every one of us, because it's easy for us to point and say female bosses are bad bosses, but we're all females in the room. What will somebody say about your leadership style tomorrow? So first is go and build up on your leadership skills. And the most important leadership skill is self-leadership. So if you can lead yourself, it would help how you even do your work. You'll be able to self-manage. Your line managers won't have to micromanage you. You'll be able to work well with other people. And that's one thing I've seen over the years. How people work well with other people, it can determine if you get promoted. It can determine if you are told to leave the organization. So your ability to build on your personality skills, your interpersonal skills, getting along with working with other people, nothing beats it. People will mention your name in rooms. So we as women need to be deliberate about those things. Already we know that all the odds, or most of the odds, are stacked against us. Yeah. So we can't afford to be doing anyhow. We need to be deliberate. Build up on your leadership skills. That's the first thing I was going to say. Another thing that is very important is, I've talked about showing up before. If you are big on self-awareness, you will know that even with your flaws, you are still awesome. Now, and this is not me aspiring to aspire to you guys, but it is to say you're not supposed to come all perfect. Even when you're coming into a role. I'm a HR person, and I know that when we're recruiting for roles, I don't expect that you take 100% of the boxes. But I'm hoping that you bring something tangible to the table that will make me consider you for the role, and I imagine that you will grow as you go along. So those are some of the things I'll challenge us on, to say, first go and ramp up on your interpersonal skills, your leadership skills. Be deliberate about showing up. Build your personal brand. How many of us are on LinkedIn? Because I have to land there somehow. How many of us are on LinkedIn? I am a LinkedIn top voice. We're not too many in Nigeria who are LinkedIn top voices. And it was as a result of showing up. I didn't pay to be named a LinkedIn top voice. It was as a result of showing up, sharing my expertise and thought leadership. There are things you know, and that's one thing I'll just land on. I need to say this. What I know as a HR person, when I share it, it is just, I know it. But when I share it, it is a big deal to you because you don't know what I know. And so don't take for granted the things that you know in your space. Don't assume we all know. I don't know. I don't code. So if you assume I understand tech like you do, that's a wrong assumption. And that's where thought leadership comes from. Sharing those little nuggets from what you know that become big deal and become eureka moment for other people. So do not shy away from sharing as best as you can. Start from maybe your WhatsApp status, share on Instagram, go to LinkedIn, TikTok, however you want to do it. But let your experience come to the fore. Because when you do that, the opportunities you are looking for will be running after you. And I'm saying that from experience. So let us build on those things, and they will continue to set us apart. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for her. My next question is to you, Gochi. And this is a question that I might sound biased, but it's a question that must be asked, right? And it's about government involvement when it comes to, we can't talk about driving change in an economy without involving the government, right? Considering your very extensive experience, in government-related partnerships at Google, etc., what do you believe is the government's role in shaping a more inclusive ecosystem? Because we can only do so much without the support of the government. We can only say, we want to get more women in tech. And at the end of the day, we're exporting this talent outside of Africa if our own ecosystem is not conducive enough for us. So what do you think is the government's role to play in helping us shape this inclusive ecosystem for us to be able to contribute to the economy?
So I think with government, there are a number of things. We've talked extensively about policy and legislation because that's something that only government can do, right? But even within policy, right, there are public-private partnerships that you can go into that help to push those policies. So if you think about things like what the NESG is doing, right? The Economic Summit Group. What they do is basically try to push policy to government, but they do that with the private sector, right? So even from a private sector point of view, right, you need to be speaking with companies that understand the influence they can have on government and help government see that these policies are important. So for instance, a company, it could be anyone, it could be Google, it could be Microsoft, they could work with the NESG, right, and say that we will sponsor this research on this policy that we will push to government that is geared towards getting more women into tech. So policy is really, really important. But another thing that is really important that we've talked a lot about but continues to be a problem that the government needs to work on is infrastructure. Because there's the first problem that we have as women is access, right? Democratization of access is the biggest problem we have. And it's access, you're going to try to democratize access to knowledge, which is education, training. You're going to try to democratize access to digital infrastructure, which is something that the government absolutely needs to do, but some of the public sector is helping, right? But you need to find access to all of these things. When we talk about access to infrastructure, the government is number one here, right? How do we make sure that people are able to find broadband internet, right? They have access to phones, right? Or else, how are they going to get the knowledge that they require, right? So that's the first thing. That's why I said infrastructure is really important. If we think about how many people in Africa today we have a little over 500 million people on the internet. This is on a continent that is over 1.3 billion strong. You have only 500, a little over 500 million people. Ask yourself, of that 500 million people that are on the internet, what percentage are women? It's just 37%, right? So think about the 500 million, think about the 37%. If you're saying, oh, let's continue to educate them, let's continue, you're only educating 37% of 500 million, right? There are so many other people that don't even have access to the internet, that don't even have access to any of the information that we're sharing here today, access to any knowledge, any training. So infrastructure is very, very important. The government needs to put more, governments across the continent need to put more effort. That 37% is an average. There are countries that are up as high as 65%. As high as 65% of the women are not on the internet. So that's the second thing after policy that we need to think about. The government also needs to be very, very, they need to think very clearly about how they partner with people. Because yes, we continue to say development,
but there are partnerships with governments that have brought internet to many villages, that have brought, phones, even if they're feature phones, the ones that only call, to many villages. Those partnerships, they need to be more deliberate about doing that, because with those partnerships, you're able to then do hubs. All those hubs in the villages for technology, the knowledge on technology, all of those sorts of initiatives that many of the big tech companies do now, where they go into remote villages, the underrepresented communities, and they try to bring technology to them. So where government is not able to do that, those partnerships can do that. So if we think about those three things, policy, infrastructure, and partnerships, public-private partnerships, I think doing those three things, we should be able to make some progress.
Thank you so much. So because of time, I'm going to truncate some of the questions, and then this is a general question to everyone. And if you can keep our responses very brief, that would be really great. Now, this question is around allyship. In one of the breakout sessions that I moderated, we talked about how as women, and it's something as a mantra I'm beginning to emphasize more and more, as women, we can't achieve the gender equality that we're trying to achieve, or bridge that gender gap without having male allies. We're in a male-dominated industry. There's an actual need for us to work with the men who are already at the top to get to the top, right? So in this instance, how can these women, from your own perspective, you have all achieved really high leadership positions in your various roles, and I'm pretty sure that you have male allies who you've worked with and who currently work with. So how can these women engage men as allies? How can they not see men as the enemy? To engage them as allies in this mission that we're trying to drive, and ensure that there is a collaborative effort to drive progress for their careers and then for the economic growth. So we'll start with Clara, then Jumoke, and then Ugochi. Very briefly, please, because of time.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. So I think, in the health space, it's more of having a sit down with these men, right? Having a sit down with them and discussing, most of the issues in the health space affect families, affect communities, affect the society. So even these men that we're talking about, I'm very sure that they have some knowledge with respect to some of these issues, because they have them in their family. So having a sit down with them to have this discussion, make them see reason, right? Make them see reason. And sometimes, most times that actually works. Once they're able to buy into what you're selling, right, they are able to actually propel it forward. So it's just leaving the fear and going forward and having that conversation.
Thank you so much, Clara. Jumoke?
The very first thing, like you were saying, for us not to see men as the enemy, they are not our enemies. Like, we need them to survive, let's be honest. So don't first see them as an enemy, because your approach to how you even interact with them, you start to look like, well, I feel like you're the enemy, and that's the energy you bring into the conversation. So they are not our enemy. First, I would say we need to show value as women. I've said it before, don't consider me for the role because you want to pity me. I need to put my best foot forward first, so that even if you are giving me concession, it is because I'm bringing value. So we as women, let us upskill. Let us make sure that in every conversation, in every room, we are bringing value. And it's important that we're mindful about, building relationships. One thing I will leave you with is be big on emotional intelligence. There are 4 key things that help you crack that. First is self-awareness, knowing yourself, who you are, and all of that. Second is self-management, your ability to self-manage, and knowing who to hire and fire in your life. Third is social awareness, knowing what is happening around you. And the last one is relationship management. If we are looking for allies, we are saying we want to build relationships. That's it. So how do you understand the dynamics of relationship management so that in your interactions with the men, they know that you are a bag of chips and some, and you are not trying to use what you have to get. We don't do that. We're coming with a lot of class, a lot of value. Because if you are loaded with value, people will listen to you. And I'm saying this from experience. People ask me that, it's been 15 years, have I ever been harassed by men? I'm like, no. I mean, I'm coming with value. When I open my mouth to talk about an issue, I know what I'm saying. And if it's not my core, I keep quiet. I let the people who know it say it. But when I speak, I know exactly what I'm saying. So in building, these allies we're talking about, it is coming with value and being deliberate. There are dynamics, there are tools. There are ways to build relationship. There's a way you build relationship with people. They won't have the mouth to offer you crap. There's a way. Yes. Because we're all girls in this room, so let's be honest with ourselves. So be big on relationship building so that the men, without you even opening your mouth, they will stand up for you and say, no, give this one the opportunity. So yes, I've seen that work for me over the years, and impossible is nothing.
Thank you so much, Moke.
I think for me, so just to clarify before I say anything, you need to understand that in tech, right? When we talk about representation, is a real thing because the majority of people are men. So you have to have allies with men because the majority of the people you're going to work with, the majority of people that will make those decisions are men. So for me, in my experience and through my career, I think there are 3 things that I am going to talk about. The first thing, Jumoke has talked about a lot, competence. The first thing is you have to be competent at what you do. You must be competent at what you do. There is no one, every single person that is working in an organization is there because they have something to deliver. They're not going to pick you because you smile a lot, you are really pretty, or because they're going to lose their jobs. So they need to make sure that in whatever they're doing, this person actually knows what she's doing. So you must show up as competent and people must see that. The second thing is that you must understand the lay of the land. And when I say that, that means that when you get into an organization, you must understand the way the organization works. You must understand how promotions happen. You must understand who makes the decisions in that organization, and that helps you build a plan. You shouldn't sit somewhere and never have a plan. When you get into a place, you must have a plan for what you want to do. Whether you want to be promoted, whether you want to move into this department, you must have a plan. And once you have a plan, you will then know who you need to be talking to either mentor you as an ally or sponsor you. So there's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship, but you should have both, right? And this is not about politics. I am a totally unpolitical person. I do not like politics, right? But in every organization, there must be people that are rooting for you, that are singing your praises, that are saying, this person is a really good person and she can do this, right? And that's what you need to cultivate. And that's why I said you need to understand the lay of the land. And the last thing will be visibility. And this is not, again, this is not politics. This is not about shouting all over the office and then, sashaying everywhere so that they see you. No. This is about making sure your voice is heard, right? Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. Because the most intelligent people actually challenge the status quo. They want to see how things can get better. You can work in an organization, you can say, I work at Google, they know everything. They don't, right? You could be that person that discovers the next thing. And the only way you will know that is if you challenge what is there today,
right? So do not be afraid to challenge the status quo if you think that you have a better idea. Even if the idea does not end up being the better one, right? Somebody will say this person is thinking, and she's always thinking because she always has something to say that makes sense. So that would be my 3 things that I would leave with you.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for my guest. So we're going to take questions. Do we have questions from the audience? 1, please come to the front. 2, any more hands? Yes, please come forward. We need mics, please. Okay, so very briefly, your name and who the question is directed to. Please put on the mic.
Hi, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neka, and I do a lot of things, so that's why I have a lot of questions. So I'll just see how
One question, because of
yeah,
time.
exactly. So just one question. So my question is this: most jobs that you get to see out there, right? They don't have salaries. So you see this job and you're like, I love this company, this kind of company I want to work for. And you apply for this job and you're confident, you know what you have. And you prepare for the interview and you can tell you're gaining in. And the next thing they ask you, what's your salary expectation? And you give an amount and you get it. So now you're in the company and you're speaking to your colleagues and you see that you're actually the most underpaid person. How do you go about this? Because do you keep quiet? Because now you're like the only lady
Okay,
in the
sorry. So your
team.
question is, how do you go about addressing salary inconsistencies?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
one more question?
No, thank you. One more question. You can meet the speakers later because of time.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right, so I think that question is to you, Jumoke. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go for it? Okay, okay. So the first thing I would say, I thought you were even going to talk about rejections, where you've gone through the interview stages and you're like, I expect to get it. And I was just going to say that it's okay when we get no. I've had interviews where I was told no and the world didn't end. So first is be okay with that. But in the case you've mentioned, it did happen, no, I'm not gonna lie. It did happen, But what I would say is do your research. Go on maybe Glassdoor. If you know anybody within that organization, ask. And it's okay to sort of estimate at the level you are at, the skill set that you have, how much should you be earning. The room is a little noisy.
Hi, everyone.
Just so we can get value out of this.
Thank you.
So do your research, ask questions. I recall when I was going to join a fintech, and they were making me an offer. What I did was to call one of my friends who was the head of HR at Fair Money at the time. And I was like, sis, please, some people are talking to me so that I don't go and shoot myself in the foot. What is obtainable? And she said to me, what she told me, I ramped it up a bit. And then I said to them, this is what I like. And they gave me even extra on top. So, of course, I did my research. But if you find yourself also in that situation where you've gone in and you see that you are underpaid, like I said, it happens. How are you deliberate to now start to work in a way that you are showing working that nobody here is supposed to do. Not supposed to consider this thing when I give me.
Yeah, data to
but you don't go about it now disgruntled, shaking everywhere upside down and saying no. In the first place, organizations will even tell you salary is confidential. So they don't expect you to go and be discussing during lunch, but we all do. So again, but I'm just saying, now have a plan. And you just talked about us having a plan. So have a plan as to how do I show them that I deserve more. Let me now give you the last joker. If you now have that plan and it's not forthcoming, you are not a tree. Move.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, yes, please. Very briefly.
Yes,
Your name and who it's directed to?
All right. My name is Bim
Hi,
Sala.
sorry. Hi, everyone. Could you please give us your time? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bim Sala, right? And I want to ask a particular question, especially in health sector. Like, I want to niche down to health sector. So yes, we all know that technology is like a tool to create solution in a particular system. But in a country, like, I don't know, looking at Nigeria health sector, how do you tell people about how do you get people to accept the solution that you're trying to provide using technology in health sector? Like, how do you get people to accept it? I know it took a while in fintech, but how do you get to break that barrier in health sector?
Thank you so much.
All
I'm
right.
getting that question to Clara.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much. Yes, you're very right. So adoption of tech in health is very, it hasn't been going so well, but like every other new thing, you have to be persistent. You have to be persistent, right? Especially if you have to be persistent in projecting the value. Projecting the value. So for instance, I'll give you an instance. Currently in One Health, we work with almost 1,000 health, 1,000 pharmacies, and it was very difficult at first to get them to, key into the tech space. I mean, everybody was like. Everybody wanted the manual thing, but it wasn't going to be possible because we function outside of Lagos even. So we had to get them in to be able to, had some trainings, and I mean, because they wanted the business, they were open for it, right? It was going to give them revenue, so they were open for it. And we've been doing some trainings almost on a monthly sometimes, quarterly sometimes, to also upgrade them to the space where we want them to. So what I would say is just be persistent with the value. Once they see the value, they will key into it.
Thank you so much, Clara. Please, a round of applause for the panelists. So, as we wrap up, I'll give each of you the mic to let the audience know, how they can connect with you. They want to move the conversations further. Whichever platform it is you're comfortable with them reaching out or engaging with you, and then we'll call it a wrap. So maybe Ugochi, you want to go first, and then we'll move that way.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I will accept your invitations. My full name is Ugochi Agoreyo on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can connect. I'm happy to just take.
Thank you.
So my name is Dr. Jumoke Aliuke Malakai, and then I have Workplace with Jam in brackets on LinkedIn, or you follow me on Instagram, Workplace with Jam. And I think I would just like to leave them with something. And it's my model of emotional intelligence that I wanted to live with every one of us, because I'm very big on magic and those things that make us tick. So I'm leaving you with this, my KOB model of emotional intelligence. K says, know your magic. O says, own your magic. And B says, bless the world with your magic. We're all in this room because Ada was deliberate to bless the world with her magic. I think we should give her a round of applause. So yes, go ahead to know your magic, own your magic, and bless the world with your magic.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. Clara.
All right, thank you. So my full name on LinkedIn is Clara Ezudo. You can connect with me. I'll be very happy to connect with you.
I don't think they heard that, Clara.
Clara Ezudo on LinkedIn, yes.
All right, thank you. Please, another round of applause for the panelists as they leave the stage. Come on, we can do better.